Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, Screenwriting Step by Step, episode 27, in which I take you step by step through my experience of writing a pilot script, an hour-long drama pilot, in the hopes that that will be educational. This is not the only way to write a script. It's just my way, but it's something that you don't get to see very often. So I think if you feel like dropping in now and then, I am here every weekday, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time if I am available. I am also available for Ask Me Anything questions while I am doing this. And if for some reason you have a life and you can't do that, you can still ask questions. You are not out of the loop. You can just go to writingforscreens.com, click on the Contact Me button. It will open a form that lets you contact me. And if you don't even feel like doing that, you can comment right here on YouTube itself. You comment. It goes right to me. It's a message. You ask a question. I will try and fit it into the vast flow of this experiment. Speaking of vast flow of this experiment, let's try to get into it. Because I had some thoughts. I had some realizations. What I did was I stepped away a bit, and that let me look at my outline, and what I realized when I looked at it was I have too few scenes. I am pretty sure that I have too much going on per scene and not enough scenes. Now, this is the sort of thing that you wouldn't necessarily know this. If you've written a lot of scripts, as I have, you begin to get an instinct for how much you can get into a scene and how many scenes you need. Just a sort of rhythm thing. And one of the things I know is that currently in my outline, I have an awful lot happening. For instance, in this first scene with Madeline and the detective at the crime scene, we have got to meet Madeline, we've got to meet the detective, we've got to understand where the police stand on the crime, we need to catch up on who the heck Madeline is, who George was, and that's a lot. The odds are we can't get that all into one scene, and even if we did, it would probably feel rushed. I mean, the truth is, and like I said, this is just one of those experience things. You begin to get a sense of what the audience is there for, and when you rush that, when you hurry too fast through the things that they're there to engage with, the main characters in the main story, you get this sort of crappy mechanical feeling. A lot of movies have it because of the terror of people losing interest. But the truth is, I believe they get more interested as they get more information about the characters, more character drama going on. That's just me. But as far as I can tell, I have too much happening in certain sequences. The opening sequence with Madeline and the cops, and then the sequence when Xena proposes taking over the podcast and finding the killer. That's a lot. There's a lot happening there. And just the concept of this group of people deciding that they are going to try and take over a dead podcaster's podcast, that takes some brain space. One of the things I try and do is, yes, I could accomplish it. I guarantee you I could write a solid scene in which the argument was made and the other characters were convinced. But we don't know who these people are yet. We're not going to care. And so I think what I'm going to need to do is break these into smaller steps instead of having just one Zoom meeting, have a series of beats. This is tricky because Zooming, like telephone calls, I actually think it can work really well on a screen. There's a lot of people who believe that that phone calls, Zoom meetings, things like that are inherently uncinematic. I don't know why. The fact is, they're inherently cinematic because you're constantly cutting between two places. Cross-cutting is one of the most cinematic things you can do. And the other thing is, you actually have a lot of things going on at the same time. So the way it used to be a little worse because people used to have to sit on the phone and the phone was plugged into the wall and they couldn't go anywhere. But now you can phone anywhere. So there was actually a movie called Hurly Burly. It was based on a play, a very wonderful, talky play about Hollywood. It's a vicious, ugly story, but the main thing about it is that a lot of it takes place on phone calls and things like that. I know it's doable. For me, at least, I know I can do that. So one of the things I need to do with this is I'm going to need to break up this scene. And the thing is, when you do something like this, you make a mess. For a while, your outline sprawls all over the place. And so don't panic. Those of you out there following along over my shoulder, we are not lost. We are simply working towards writable scenes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this scene and I'm going to try and break it into its component pieces, to the steps that it would have to take. Because I believe a lot of them can be made into little mini scenes, and we can spread them out over time and spend time in each character's life as they contact each other or as they talk about their feelings about this event. And that will be a lot of cool scenes and a lot of small scenes. Long scenes are hard to keep the audience with you. You have to build to them, or you have to make them into kind of a showpiece. I believe we are going to have one such thing like that at the end of the outline, once we get into the contact with the killer. When the killer starts to call them, those scenes have got to spread out. Those have got to be big scenes, because that's when all the little bits and pieces that we've been building in the course of an hour come together. And all of a sudden, these people realize, uh-oh, we have provoked a serial killer, and now he's after us. So, I had a camera problem. I seem to have lost my camera. Let me see what I can do here. Am I back? Don't panic. I still am here, but I do seem to, I seem to be having some trouble with my camera, so I apologize. I will be at inferior quality for a little bit of time. In fact, I am a black circle at the moment. That's troubling. There we go. Did you see me there? I apologize for this technical difficulty, but gosh darn it, I know this is possible. I know I can get you to see me in a high quality Sony camera as opposed to my computer's webcam. Hey, I'm back, at least for the moment. Let's see what happens. Alrighty. So, like I said, the thing that this all makes me think about, first of all, please do, I see that there's a half dozen of you online. Please do ask questions if you've got any. But in the meantime, what I'm going to talk about is the way that I'm going to break up these scenes is I'm going to try and I'm going to go back to this big one here where Xena decides to take over Podcast Finding the Killer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up. I'm going to think about the steps, all the steps. For instance, right now I've got meet the team on Zoom. Well, actually, yes, you could do that really fast. You could just have a Zoom screen and show 6 windows and have everyone talking. But the truth is no one's going to get to know anybody. So what I want to do is break those out a little. Think about who they are, which means Meet the team on Zoom is actually going to be several beats, several steps. Meet Xena, or at least Xena, but also Norman. And this is important because this is the first time we are meeting Norman. Meet Norman. Oops. Meet Norman. Watching Xena propose takeover. And then we're also going to need to meet Kanji. Yes, I will change the names. Don't panic. Right now, this is just named after Darius Kanji, the amazing cinematographer of the movie Seven. And currently, he's just on the Stephen King miniseries on Apple, Lisey's Story, which is not my favorite. The book's really good, but it's just gorgeous to look at. This guy can do cinematography. Anyway, so that's who that's named after. The meth dealer. And then we have to meet the others, which currently is, I don't even know who they are. So this is a sign of what I have not yet figured out. Anyway, let's take that out. Let's just do that. All right. Anyway, so now you're getting a sense of what's going to happen is when I look at these, I'm like, okay, start to ask it like a meet Norman. Well, where is Norman? Because what's he doing? When is this happening? Establish that he's a meth dealer and user. And Xena running meeting. Now we've already met Xena talking to Madeline here. She's bugging her. And now so she's reporting to team on fail with Madeline. On Zoom. There we go. And just there, look, I got it down to one line. It's sort of a thing. I try and get it down to one line if I can. I try to have these headlines just be one line, just because it helps my eye. It helps my eye say, this is the thing, this is the deal, this is the point of this. The problem is, I currently have this at 20 points. Here, let me see if I can move this. Yeah. See that over there in that corner? This is at 20 points. This is huge. This is a lot of space. So ordinarily, I would do that at 14 points and do the regular text at 12 points, but it's hard for you to see. So this is a little big, which means there's less words per line, which is not the worst thing. Hello, Wolf Powers. Glad to see you here. We are breaking up scenes. We are recognizing I've got too much stuff going on in too few scenes right now, is what I've realized. The ending is going to be some big scenes, but right now, what I'm saying is I've got a lot of characters to introduce in these scenes, and we need to see them in their lives, and I have not left room for that in the outline. And this actually, where is Norman? This, I believe, yes, this is a question I have already not answered. This is a question that we need to, gosh darn it, we are going to have to get on this. Oh, look, a new face, Bria Rose. Hello, Bria Rose. Welcome. Good afternoon to you. We are breaking down some of these scenes, trying to recognize that what's happening in them is too much too fast, and that so I'm showing you how you take a scene and you start to break it down mainly by asking questions. For instance, what has to happen in this scene? Well, in this scene, we're going to have to meet all these characters, which means I'm going to need to figure out who they are. I need to go through this until there's no pink stuff here, until I know what every scene is about. I don't have to have it perfectly right. I don't have to have every detail of it. The truth is, I've been doing this a long time. I've written many scripts, and so I have a pretty confident sense of if I have a rough idea of a scene, I know I can work my way through to making it work. And so I will probably demonstrate going from the outline to the script faster than I would advise for other people because I know what I'm doing. And because I don't want to make you watch me go through the arduous process that is truly screenwriting of asking so many questions and having to answer them before you even get to writing. And then there's a billion other questions once you start writing the script itself. So that is what I'm doing right now. But this also brought up another concept for me, which was I wanted to show you what I think the major moves are. This is a thing it's just a thing I made up. Do not be fooled. This is not an official thing. But I like to call sort of the big shape of the script or the series, call them the major moves. The reason I do this is because it's a catchy phrase that sort of comes from a brilliant script and fantastic movie called Color of Money, which is a sequel to The Hustler. It's directed by Martin Scorsese. It stars Paul Newman and Tom Cruise. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest it. It's just a damn good movie. But watch The Hustler first. It'll make it even better. These are two magnificent movies. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to type this for you. Hold on. Let's see what happens if I type this. The Hustler and The Color of Money. And we're going to change the type to there. And we're going to center it. And I'm going to, okay, sorry to do that, but here, this is just a recommendation. If you get a chance to watch these are just two superb, rich, character-based dramas. And they're really entertaining and they're freaking brilliant. So I'm just going to put that out there. These are good to see. But the only reason I'm telling you about that actually is because in The Color of Money, there's this line where Paul Newman says, "I'm a student of human moves." It's Richard Price. He's a phenomenal screenwriter and brilliant novelist. But anyway, this phrase stuck in my head, the student of human moves. And so when I got to writing my outlines, I said, well, what are the moves? Oh, wait, let me get rid of the hustle there. Okay, what are the moves of the script? Not every scene, but the big moves. So I tend to call them the major moves. There is no one else calls it that. You don't have to. You can call it the beats. You can call it the I don't know what anyone calls these things, but to me, they're the underlying shape of a script. The sequences, the primary sequences. The first move is George's podcast hunting, and says he's got new evidence and gets killed. That's really one move. I'm gonna. There we go. So George's podcast hunting. Then we meet. The next sequence is meet Madeline and cops and investigation. Xena trying to get files. I'm probably going to keep Xena bugging Madeline in there. But the first sequence, now the thing is, this could be several scenes. This may be several scenes. Let's see, this is... Group. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to sort of conceive of the big sections. The first section is meeting George, seeing him get murdered, then meeting Madeline and seeing her that she has been dragged back into her past. Oh, Wolf Powers has a name for it. Major events. Fair enough. Kubrick used to call them non-submersible, I can't remember, non-submersible elements, I think? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to just keep doing these major moves so that you can see how meet Norman in Zoom group steers them to rob Madeline. Okay, so see, these are all wrong. So Norman hears that they're going to rob her. Norman goes to protect Madeline. Now the thing is, this kind of thing, like Norman intervenes to protect Madeline, that's actually going to be a bunch of scenes, because we're going to see Norman saying to Xena, hey, cut it out. Xena saying, no, this is important, or whatever she's going to say. Norman then decides to hit the road to try and get there first. We're also going to see Kanji trying to get to Madeline. So there's sort of a race against time. We are going to see Kanji try to make the robbery, and we are going to see Norman stop it. So there's going to be like 5 scenes or something in there, at least. But the big meaning of it is Norman steps up, he intercepts and intervenes and stops the robbery. And then Madeline and Norman spend night together. Make love. Then after that, they're going to, because she's a little out of it, because she has been doing drinking and drugs in grief and shock at her ex's murder, when all this came down. So Norman and Madeline spend the night together, which is an unexpected twist. We've been going one way, and then all of a sudden we take some time just on Norman and Madeline. And then Xena, well, sometimes there's little bits in there that you don't worry about. Mad and Norm, next day, getting to know you. Getting to know you. This is when, having unexpectedly met and made love, they actually have to meet. They have to get to know each other. Then Xena shows up, gets access to files, and then discovery. George was lying. And then killer calls. And truthfully, that's going to be the whole rest of the script. The killer's call is, I think that's going to be like a 15-minute sequence at the end with the killer calling. It's going to be a series of calls and scenes. And that is that. So this is, well, I can't quite show it to you this way. I'm going to, here. So this is the major moves. This is the basic steps. And it's about, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eight big hunks, which for a 60-minute script makes about sense. Like to have everyone be about 8 to 10 minutes, not bad. Some of them are going to obviously be shorter, but that is the thing I try and do, because now I can think about these. I can conceive of it in this sort of big picture manner and say, what do I have to accomplish in this section? Okay, we got a couple of comments here. First of all, John Darcino is saying something very nice. Thank you. I'm glad that you appreciate it. That really makes me feel like this is worth doing, because I am actually putting myself out there, and it can be worrisome to think, am I making a fool of myself? Okay, Grady Hendrix just penned a terrific piece on serial killer fiction for Tor. I think you'll appreciate it in regards to your current project. Might fuel some major moves for you. I will look into that. Thank you. So this is what I do in order to then, and I don't necessarily put the major moves into the outline, although sometimes you can make them into sort of sequences here. Like you could, like if you wanted to, you could say, you could take one of those and copy it and lay it in here as, Norman intervenes, sequence 3, or whatever it is. And then I have a name for that. I call it a section, and it's sort of like an act break or a whatever. So you can do that. I don't know if I'll do it. I probably won't, but I wanted to show you that it is a thing you can do. So this is where we are. My next step is to go back, and you see all these pink things? I need to answer them. The first being the where is Norman? Because Norman is our lead, our co-lead with Madeline, and I have not given this enough thought. And I think I'm going to let that cook. I'm going to let that settle a bit. Offhand, I tend to think my original idea was that he was very isolated, that he was like living off and being trying to force himself into isolation to write this book. I'm not sure if we have time, although that might not be a bad thing. I guess the question is, we don't want it to duplicate other people. And if George is living in a fairly isolated place, then Norman shouldn't be doing that too, because it's just too much of the same thing. A lot of the time, you spend your time working on these things, and all you're trying to do is keep things from repeating each other. So I don't, if George is in a remote place, then Norman can't be. If George is not, then Norman can be. So that's, okay, let's just, Norman can be in a remote spot only if George is not. So then it becomes a question of, where is George? Oh, thank you, Richard. You have posted some very nice comments all along, and this is yet another one. Thank you. I hope it is helpful. That's great. So here's the thing, and now you're seeing the part where I am really writing in front of you. Like I brought in a bunch of concepts here, but now I've gotten to one where I do not know what I am going to say next. I do not know. The majority of our time is spent in George's house, not Norman's. So do we want to, the thing is, if George is not in a remote space, then we have the problem of all these other people around. Like if George lives in a suburban house, part of the question is, how the heck does wacko George manage a suburban house? So I am beginning to think that George has to have the remote location, which means Norman should be in more of a and also it makes sense if Norman has been a wannabe journalist or has been a journalist. He's going to be he's not going to be. We're not understanding him as a loner. So I think the answer is George's house. Well, you know what I mean. George's house is remote. Ah. is remote, and Norman lives in an apartment in a city. I believe this is truth. And since I'm writing this, I get to say if it's truth. That's the trick. For the moment, we are going to leave it at that. And with that, I believe I'm going to take a pause here. Wait a second. We have a question. This is actually relevant. In adding new scenes, do you have some rule about its requirements, like every scene needs to progress the plot or deepen some major character? Yes, I kind of do, although they're not those two. Although the character, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, every scene should come out of character. This is a big one for me. I believe action creates character, and character creates action. These two things, every time somebody takes an action, they are revealing their character. They are showing us who they are. They are acting out of their character. But at the same time, everything that you do is caused by your character, so that while you are partly expressing your character, you're also defining it, but you're also sort of making your character by your action. Like if you decide to protest something, that makes you a person who does that. And so the short answer there is my rule about adding a scene is, yes, something should be happening. Now, that does not mean that like meditation can be something happening. A character taking a moment to process what happened to them in the last scene, or to quote lick their wounds, or to just retreat. Those are all completely valid actions. It might not sound like it's an action, but it is. That is a dramatic action. I did a video called Dramatic Action. If you look on my YouTube channel, you will find this, and this will tell you a lot about what I believe a scene is about. A scene is about a character taking a step to get the thing that we have started the story knowing they want, started the story establishing that they want. Every character, in my opinion, and that includes minor characters, they all want something. Who is it about? Who is this scene about? Who is the story about? But who is the scene about? Who is this moment about? And what do they want? What are they trying to get? In our story right now, we have we're actually meeting a whole bunch of characters, and I am asking these questions about them. Norman initially wants to make fun of, to attack, to criticize this group of people. However, when he hears this ugly plan by Xena to rob this woman, who is an innocent bystander, she just was an ex-wife of this crazy guy, he becomes protective. What he wants to do is protect. That is, I like to think of it in terms of a verb. What are they trying to do? Norman's instinct is protect, which is part of his journalistic kind of code. So action comes from character. He's a guy who wants to do good. And at the same time, Xena wants to become famous. She wants to become important. And that's why she's doing what she's doing. So everybody's acting out of these actions. And each step in our story is an attempt to do those things, to do those things. Once Norman intervenes, because he is protecting, he continues to want to protect her, but he also starts to fall in love with her. And when he falls in love with her, he wants to solve the crime. Eventually, all of these people are going to want to solve the mystery of who killed George, which is why we put George's murder up at the front, because now we've got the audience asking the same thing. What the heck happened here? We just saw a man murdered. Is it the obvious, the serial killer? Well, we begin to have doubts about that, and pretty soon, by the end of the pilot, because this is a long story and this is just the first episode, the serial killer says, "I didn't do it." Now we have a real question. So I hope that has been somewhat helpful. Cool. Oh my gosh, we have more questions. Am I prepared for this? Let's see. Would you play variations of character in a remote place? Norman in a desert while George... This is great. This is a good question. Would you play variations of character in a remote place? As in, Norman is in the desert while George is remote personally, although he's alone in a crowd. Yes, you can do that, and in fact, we will be doing that. I sort of have done that just instinctively when we were talking, because what I said was Norman will be in an apartment in a small city. He will be disconnected from everyone around him and connected, weirdly, to these people he thinks he hates. So yes, in fact, everyone in this story is sort of disconnected. I was simply talking about the physical location, the actual emptiness of the landscape, and that I didn't want to get those two alike. But you've made a very good point. That's a great question, which is when you have a thematic element like disconnection, like remoteness, inability to connect or form a community, many of your characters are going to be variations on that. Variation is completely different from repetition. And that's something to remember. Repetition, usually not great. Variation, cool as can be, because you're getting different aspects. And then you have to start to think, well, what is this one like? And what is this one like? And how would they interact and stuff like that? Okay. Now a brief question. No, thank you. It's not a question. It's just a compliment. I did not know that going in when I clicked show this to everybody. But thank you. Mayank has said that I'm helping to explain the professionalism. That's actually important because, and I think I'm going to sort of conclude with this for today. Professionalism and art are very, very different. They are often in opposition. They are often just tearing the hell out of each other because artistic interests, artistic goals are very often bad for business. And professionalism obviously puts business first. So the answer is, I believe it's very important to understand that this is both an art and a profession. And you do not necessarily need to do both. It would be really cool to pursue it as an art, although that is another question, which I'm working on a video about this, whether or not screenplays are the best form if you're not going to be professional, because it is very difficult to get a movie made if you're not a professional. So stay tuned further for meditations on professionalism versus being an artist. But what I will say here is, first of all, thank you. And yes, screenwriting is a professional thing to do. When you write a screenplay, you are pretty much saying, I want to do this thing that either you're going to make yourself, which is cool, and I love this idea, and if you're interested in it, you should follow that, but recognize that DIY is its own sphere of work. But if you want to be a professional, then there are extra demands. I think that's the way I would look at it. There's the art, and then the profession is laid on top of it. You can't do the profession without the art, honestly. So therefore, the art, as far as I'm concerned, comes first. But do recognize that the needs of the profession, they get in the way of the art a lot of the time. I would also say, I'm curious. I do not know much about the Indian film community, but I know it's big and I know it's vibrantly businesslike, and that there's an awful lot going on there. In fact, a lot of American companies are desperately trying to get into the Indian business. So there's layers and levels of professionalism everywhere. And I am glad if I am helping in any way to sort any of that out. And with that jumbled mess of a thank you for a compliment note, I'm going to say, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Let's take it up tomorrow. Take care.